Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist, and today we're going to be doing a DDD deck profile. So I'm really excited this week guys, because this deck is an absolutely insane deck that uses just about every single summoning mechanic in the entire game of Yu-Gi-Oh, which is just awesome. It's a very combo based deck that actually summons out some insanely powerful monsters to your side of the field to completely shut down your opponent. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can come part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards like getting your name in the description of every single video, getting a signed cards and beyond, even getting to request a deck profile every single month you're a patron along with test hands. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of DDD Oblivion King Abyss Ragnarok. Now this card is a awesome card for this deck because it has the ability that if you special summon a DD monsters, except during the damage step, you can target a DD monster in your graveyard and any battle damage your opponent takes for the rest of the turn is halved, but you get to special summon that monster, and if you do, you take 1,000 points of damage, which is not that big of a deal because you're basically getting a monster back on your side of the field pretty much for free. We then have the ability of a monster effect that if this card is normal or special summon, that you get to target one DDD monster in your graveyard and special summon it. And you can only use the effect of this card once per turn. It also has the ability that once per turn you can treat one other DD monster and then target a monster opponent controls and banish it, which is a very good effect. We then play a single copy of Go DDD Divine Zero King Rage, which is an awesome card, and I absolutely love this card in this deck. It has the ability, if you would take effect damage, you take no effect damage at all. And if you normal summon one level 5 or higher DD monster, you can do it without tributing. And you can only use the effect of this card once per turn. But its monster effect is that when this card declares an attack, if your opponent's life points are 4,000 or less, you can make this card gain attack equal to your opponent's life points until the end phase of the turn. It cannot be destroyed by battle, and you can also take no battle damage from battles involving this card, and you can tribute a monster to apply one of the 3 following effects. Either this card can attack your opponent directly, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects in the spell and trap card zone, or your opponent cannot activate effects in their hand or graveyard, which is a really good effect just to be able to stop those particular effects. We then play a single copy of DDD Chaos King Apocalypse, which is a great card just to special summon to your side of the field, because you can banish 2 DD monsters from your graveyard to special summon this card from your Pendulum Zone, which is really helpful just to give you an additional monster on your side of the field. We then play a single copy of DD Savant Thomas. I bumped Savant Thomas down to 1 in this deck because I'm not so concerned about going into rank 8s anymore, but this card has the ability that during your main phase you can add a face-up DD Pendulum monster from your extra deck to your hand, which helps out a little bit, but this deck is really good at actually Pendulum summoning from the hand and just getting those monsters that are link monsters on your side of the field to get those zones rolling so you can actually Pendulum summon. But it also has the ability that you can target one DD card in your Pendulum Zone, destroy that card if you do special summon a level 8 DDD monster from your deck in defense position. But for this turn, its effects, if any, are negated, and any battle damage your opponent takes is halved, which is a really good effect just to give you an additional monster on the field, but I bumped this card down to 1 for this particular build. We then play 3 copies of DD Savant Copernicus. Copernicus is really good in this deck because it's basically a Foolish Burial. Its main effect is if this card is normal or special summon, that you get to send a DD or Dark Contract from your deck to the graveyard, except another copy of itself, which helps out the deck a lot to be able to just have a basically walking Foolish Burial on a level 4 monster. We then play 3 copies of our complete combo starter, which is DD Savant Kepler. Kepler is really good to be able to normal summon this card, because if this card is normal or special summon, you get to add a Dark Contract from your deck to your hand, which is really one of the best effects in the entire deck, to be able to just search whatever you need of your Dark Contract, and then it's going to get you out another DD monster from the deck. We then play a single copy of DD Ghost. DD Ghost is a good level 2 tuner monster to be able to go into additional plays and go into some really good synchro plays. We play 3 copies of DD Swirl Slime. Swirl Slime is fantastic in this deck, and you've got to play 3 copies of this card. If this card is in your hand, you can fusion summon a DDD fusion monster from your X deck using monsters from your hand as fusion material, including this card. And you can also banish this card from the graveyard to special summon a DD monster from your hand as well, but you can only use each of the effect of this card once per turn. We then play 3 copies of Necro Slime. Necro Slime is really good too. This card is basically a polymerization from the graveyard. That if this card's in the graveyard, you can fusion summon a DDD fusion monster from your extra deck by banishing fusion materials listed from your graveyard, including this card, to special summon that monster to your side of the field, which is a really awesome effect. We then play 3 copies of DD Lamia. Lamia is a level 1 tuner monster that can actually bring itself back from your graveyard. If this card is in your hand or graveyard, you can send a DD or Dark Contract from your hand or face from your field to the graveyard, extend a copy itself to special summon this card, but banish it when it leaves the field, which is a great card to help you get into additional plays and even more synchro plays. We then play 3 copies of Psyframe Gear Gamma, because Gear Gamma is just really good to stop your opponent's hand traps, and you kind of need to be able to play through hand traps in this particular deck, so this card is just a no-brainer to play as a 1-of, or 3-of, excuse me. And then for the 1-of, we're playing a single copy of Psyframe Driver. Driver's just basically here because it's going to let you synchro summon with your copy of your Gamma, because it special summons itself out with the effect of your Gamma to your side of the field, and it's a really good card to be able to let you go into a level 8 synchro play. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're playing a single copy of Called by the Grave. Called by the Grave is really good because you need to, again, walk through your opponent's hand traps. So this card is very helpful to let you do that. 1 copy of Monster Reborn, because it's a really good card as an extender to be able to get you into additional plays in this deck. Foolish Burial, because it works really well with your Swirl Slime and your Necro Slime to be able to get your monsters in the graveyard, so then you can use their effects. 1 copy of 1 for 1, because this deck is very level 1 focused to be able to get monsters from the deck that are level 1, like your Swirl Slime and stuff like that you need to get on your side of the field. Even Kepler is very important to use with this card. We play a single copy of DD Contract with the Swamp King. Swamp King is really good because it's basically polymerization, because during the main phase you can fusion summon a Fiend type fusion monster in your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field as fusion material, and you'll use the effect of this card once per turn. And if a DD fusion monster is summoned this way, you can also banish monsters from your graveyard as fusion material as well, and then once per turn during your standby phase you take 1,000 points of damage, which is not that big of a deal in this deck because usually you're not going to keep your contracts on the field very long. We then play 3 copies of Dark Contract with the Gate. This is a searcher in the deck because during your main phase you can add a DD monster from your deck to your hand. It also has the ability that during your standby phase you take 1,000 points of damage, but usually the card is not on the field long enough to be able to actually do damage. We then play 3 copies of Allure of Darkness. The Allure of Darknesses are very helpful in the deck because the deck is primarily a dark-based deck that can actually get you 2 more cards from your deck to your hand to extend plays. We then play 3 copies of Where Arfdal. Where Arfdal is a very good card in this deck because basically it's going to let you add a level 1 monster from your deck to your hand to go into some really awesome additional plays in the deck, because it has the ability that if you control a face-up level 1 monster, you can add a level 1 monster from your deck to your hand. But during the end phase of this turn, you take 2,000 damage if you didn't normal summon the added monster or a card effect with the same name after activating this card, which is still a really good card to be able to just grab a level 1 monster from the deck, so you can go into additional plays like your copies of your Lamia. Usually you will take the 2,000 damage because it's going to be after your additional normal summon that you're going to activate this card, but it's still a very, very good card to get searches in the deck. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're playing a single copy of DDD Abyss King Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh is a great card as a link to. It's a good extender in the deck that if this card is special summoned, you can activate the effect that you cannot special summon monsters for this turn except for DD monsters. But then you place 2 DD monsters with different names from your deck in your pendulum zones, and if you do, you take 1,000 points of damage. And if this link summon card is destroyed by battle with an opponent's attacking monster or by an opponent's card effect while this card's in your monster zone, you can special summon 1 DD monster from your extra deck or graveyard in defense position, which is a really, really good card effect just to be able to replace itself on your side of the field. It's a great card in the deck, but you really just need 1 because the extra deck is very, very tight. We then play a single copy of Needle Fiber. Needle Fiber is a very good card in the deck as well, just to help you go into additional plays in the deck. And this card is just such a game, like this card gives you so much gain, it's ridiculous. So that you play this card as a 1-of. We then play a single copy of Cross Sheep because you will be able to go into synchro plays, fusion plays, and all the different plays except for rituals. You can go into XZs in this deck. This card is going to get a lot of its different effects off, from special summoning a monster from the graveyard to making all monsters you control gain 700 attack, or all monster your opponent controls losing 700 attack. It's a very good versatile card in the deck to be able to go into additional plays. I will say to you guys, I'm not currently playing number 38 in this deck. Now, I did think about dropping the Cross Sheep for another copy of a rank 8 in the deck because I am playing the Savant Thomas, but I really just wanted to play out the copy of the Duo Don King Cal Yugioh. So if you want to drop Cross Sheep for a number 38, you can do that. We then play a single copy of Appaloosa. Appaloosa is very good because it's very easy to summon in this deck to give you at least 3 negates. With this card, is just really good to negate monster effects. It's very easy to go into this card in this deck, and it gives you all those downward pointing arrows, so then you can pendulum summon monsters from your extra deck to those zones. We then play 2 copies of DDD Flame King Genghis. Genghis is so good in this deck and is such a playmaker for this deck. It has the ability, if another DD monster is special summoned to your field while you control this face-up card, you can target a DD monster in your graveyard and special summon it. You only effect this card once per turn, and if this card is destroyed by battle, or if this card in its own position is destroyed by an opponent's card effect, you can target a Dark Contract in the graveyard and add it back to your hand. But that special summon effect is a key combo piece for this deck. We then play a single copy of DDD Flame High Genghis, King High Genghis. This card is so good in the deck as well. It does take a level 5 or higher DD monster, plus another DD monster to go into this card, but if another DD monster is normal or special summoned to your field while you control this card, then you can target a DD monster in the graveyard and special summon it. You can only effect this card once per turn, and once per turn, when a spell or trap effect is activated, you can quick effect negate the activation. So it's also a walking negation, which is a really good effect for this deck. We then play a single copy of Cursed King Siegfried, which is basically a spell and trap negation because it lets you, during either player's turn, target a phase that spell trap on the field, and that target's effects are negated, which is a really good effect to be able to just have another walking spell and trap negation. 1 copy of Gus King High Alexander. This card is a very good combo piece in the deck because it has the ability if another DD monster is normal or special summoned to your field while you control this face-up card, then you can target a level 4 or lower DD monster in your graveyard and special summon it, which just helps you extend your plays. We play a single copy of Satellite Warrior because this card is extremely easy to summon in the deck and is going to get you a lot of pops on the field, which is a really good boss monster in the deck. We play a single copy of Crystal Wing, which is also very easy to go into in this deck. Borreload Savage, because you do play the Needle Fiber, so this card's very easy to go into, even on your opponent's turn, I will say, especially if we have a Flame King Genghis and another card that we have in our extra deck that I'm going to get to in just a second. To be able to go into this card to have another negation is just awesome. 1 copy of the Cyframe Lord Omega. Omega is very, very, very helpful in the deck to be able to go into because you have your copies of your Driver and your copy of Gamma to be able to rip cards out of your opponent's hand. 1 copy of Formula Synchron because you can actually use this with Needle Fiber during your opponent's turn to go into this card, draw you a card, and then use this card to go into Borreload Savage during your opponent's turn, or even Satellite Warrior if you have a Synchro monster that's a level 8 on your side of the field, like any of these monsters, or the copy of Siegfried. You can actually use this card to go into your copy of your Satellite Warrior, which will give you at least 2 Synchro monsters in the graveyard to give you 2 pops of interruption against your opponent. And it lets you draw a card, so this card is a really good card in the deck. You can even legitimately synchro summon into this card and just leave it on the field with one of them because you play so many level 1s in this deck. And then we play a single copy of DDD Duo Don King Cal Yugioh. Cal Yugioh is an insanely powerful boss monster in the deck. It is a 3,500 attack point monster that takes 2 DD monsters to overlay into this card, and after this card's XZ summon for the rest of the turn, other cards and their effects cannot be activated on the field, and other cards' effects on the field are negated, and then once per turn during either player's turn, you can detach a material from this card and destroy all spells and traps on the field, and then you can also detach a material from this card and then target a Dark Contract spell in your graveyard and immediately set that target, which can basically get you a search or a fusion summon, which is really, really helpful. I will say, if you don't want to play this card, you can play number 38, or if you do want to get the number 38 in the extra deck, you can drop the copy of the Cross Sheep to put it in here as well, which is another thought for you guys. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. It's a awesome deck to play around with. I love the way the deck plays, and it's a super crazy combo deck that basically just keeps going and going and going and can basically go into everything except for ritual monsters, which eventually I figure they will give this deck a ritual monster to play around with because that's the only mechanic we're missing for this deck. We have links, we have synchros, pendulums, XZs, fusions, everything. The only thing that we're really missing is a ritual monster for the deck, and that would actually be super cool. So anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell in there so you can come part notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon in the description below for all those awesome rewards, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.